Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Knicks podcast, where we talk New York Knicks basketball and other news around the NBA. I am Jason Talbot, where today we are recapping Game 2 of the New York Knicks and Atlanta Hawks series, tied up 1-1. I'm with my man, the one, the only, fresh cut, looking good, fresh off the trip to MSG, Marcus Chinqui. How the hell are you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'm following suit with the Knicks, got the braids put in. I felt like I was gonna pop one last night though. Like things were getting wild, but we're tied up. We're knotted up, one game
Ooh.
apiece, and I tell you, there is nothing like being in the Garden for a Knick playoff game. My first finally made it, and I say they didn't disappoint.
Yeah, the Knicks win 101-92 with the big second half comeback. Just what a game. I mean, every Knick fan, I'm getting texts that it was over at halftime. Like I think Knick fans were throwing in the towel that the series was over at that point.
We didn't panic. We didn't panic inside.
So, I mean, I think anyone listening to this probably was watching the game at home. You were at the game. Tell us a little bit about what that was like and what the feelings were at the game. You know, the mood swings. I mean, it had to be an emotional roller coaster.
I mean, hear what the crowd sounded like there. If I've again never been to a Knick playoff game before. I've recapped many times on this podcast how many times we've swung and missed on trying to get to see them in the playoffs, and finally I got to go last night, and worth every dime it took to get in there. I almost decided to take the train for the first time in over a year, but I still haven't. But the energy in there is like no other place, no other thing in sports. The fans are like no other fans in sports.
Man.
It was, you could feel when the player said you could feel like the ground shaking in there in game one. You could definitely feel it throughout the entire arena throughout the game. And yeah, things were a little touch and go there at the beginning. You know, I was surrounded by, like I had the Long Island bros sitting in front of me, and they were pumped up, but they were ready to get back on the LIRR. Back to wherever they were coming from, but they were getting nervous for a second. But we didn't panic too much, and that first half it was just some of the worst basketball I think you could see, and it was just like, what are they doing? Like you could see they almost. I mean, what could you say? The crowd was almost a detriment to them because they were just so nervous. They looked lost and confused, and like there was just so much energy in there that maybe it got to them a little bit at the start. And I gotta say, thank God for Derrick Rose and like him and Taj Gibson, like two veterans, and you could tell they're the only ones that have playoff experience. And it didn't, like them and Alec Burks, and it just doesn't get to them. But I think it started the way everyone was hoping it wouldn't start, with Alfred starting at point. And there's a guy behind me for 20 minutes leading up to the game. I think he got the information. He's like, oh, when they announced the starting lineups on Twitter and stuff, he's like, oh my God, it's Alfred again. And for like 20 minutes, he was going on about how much he hates that Tibbs wouldn't make that change. And it was, you hear the groans, like when they, no one's going to boo him during the opening, I
was surprised that he didn't get boos. I really thought he was going to. And I think you could kind of hear the crowd was ready to turn on him, because I think Tibbs pulled him out just at the right time. Because if you left him in any longer following that timeout, if after that timeout Rose was not in and Alfred came back out there, I mean, I thought someone was going to rush the court and tackle Alfred, because it was tough to watch, man. Like just seeing the Knicks play bad because of him. Like he's not playing defense, offense. He's just a mess. He just looks disinterested out there. And I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about some other guys like Randall in the first half and Reggie just who also looked lost. But Alfred, it's been last game, this game, and the last like you could say 20 games. I mean, the second half of the season where he just looks
He's
mentally checked out.
Yeah, he's not, and when you're not giving anything to the game, it's like why put him out there?
Yeah.
And I think that's the frustration everyone had with Tibbs. Like, he says the same things a lot, like, um, we want to put the best guys out there, the best players out there, blah blah blah. And you're like, okay, you keep saying that, but I don't see anything that Elfrid
Yeah.
is lending to this team, and he's clearly not the best option out there. So it's like, what do
Yeah.
you like? What is? And you only play him a couple minutes, and then you yank him. So why put us in that hole? And I know. Okay, I'll give him this. I did know, like at the beginning of the game, you could see what their strategy was against Trae Young. Like they started up on him early,
Yep.
and just like body him. But the refs were not giving us any help
No.
early on in that game. And it was just like, what are the, is Tapes going to have to come out and say something like Nate McMillan did? Like, just call them out and just be like, hey, call the game both ways, call it consistently throughout the entire game because, they're getting these calls that, that were not even close to fouls, definitely not playoff
Yep.
fouls,
Yeah.
balls that were just not even touched. And you're like, what are they seeing? And it was just so frustrating from the beginning. And I think that's what got everybody that set the tone from the start, that everyone was just frustrated from that. And it was just, I guess eventually they did kind of start to ease up a little bit, but those first few minutes, it was just like, what are they looking at? What game are they watching?
Yep.
Everyone, you could feel it.
And for the second game in a row, the free throws were kind of even. Once again, I mean, the Knicks had 22. The Knicks had 23. The Hawks had 22. So at the end of the day, the free throw numbers, there's not much of a disparity there. But I mean, maybe our vision is a little bit clouded because we're Knicks fans, but I did once again feel like early on, especially, Rose going to the basket's getting hit. You blow a kiss at Trae Young, and you get in a foul call where it's not getting called both ways. So,
the free throw numbers,
the game or
the
help
free throw
decide
numbers
the game.
could be a little, yes, they could be even, but it's when they call those fouls.
Yes.
So leading up to them even getting in the penalty, it's like they were just blowing whistles, and you're like, just let them play, like every little thing you're blowing the whistle, and maybe that got in their heads. But like you said, that first timeout, people were like, Elfrid can't stay in the game. He cannot stay in the game, and he just looked like if Rose doesn't come in and save the day, this game is over. And luckily, if we started to watch, the guy sitting next to me, we were just kind of talking back and forth, and you realize, like, wait a minute, how are we only down 5 points at certain points of the game? Like, we were shooting under 25%, and somehow, like, if you had looked at just the game and didn't look at the score, you would think we were down by over 20 points.
Oh, little technical difficulties right there. I'm talking, I have my mic on mute. There's a couple key things I want to talk about the game. The Knicks defense being one of them, which kept them in it the whole game. First half, there were some stretches where defense was kind of non-existent, and it was getting. I mean, the Knicks had like basically a meltdown in the first half, and I got to tell you. The Hawks we talk about on paper, very good team, scary team. I think a lot of Knicks fans are very worried about this series, especially with a lot of the players on the Hawks getting healthy. You saw DeAndre Hunter have a big game last night, but this Hawks team, for whatever it is, they could have ended the game in the first half. They could have easily been up like 20, 30 points with as bad as the Knicks were playing, and they just couldn't quite, put the nail in the coffin and really end the game. I mean, the Knicks were always still in it. Like you said, I kept looking at the score, like even at I think the most the Knicks were down 12 points, and like in a
Yeah, I
game
think
like this,
we
being
went
down 12
into
points at home at any moment, the Knicks can go off. We've seen it, especially with the bench, the way they've been playing. So as much as like emotionally, I felt the Knicks were probably done at halftime, I'm still thinking the Knicks could easily come back, and before you know it, Taj is running up the court. He gets a dunk, and now they're down 6, and you're like, "Yo,
they
I
just
think,
yeah, they just had to hit shots. Like they had the looks and
yeah,
they were just, missing open shots, making bizarre passes, and you're just like, okay, calm down, calm down. You needed halftime. You go into halftime, we're down, 13?
yeah,
And Taves makes an adjustment. And I think that's the first time we've finally seen it. And we're like, he knew something just wasn't working. And there's no room for those kind of errors in the playoffs. And he
yep,
started Rose and Taj to start the second half, and floodgates just open.
yeah,
And it was just Randall hits that first three, and we're just like, okay, we're here, we're feeling
yep."
it. Chip away just a
So,
little bit more, chip away, and that's when things start rocking. Like we started, you know, get that comfort level back. We're feeling
oh
good.
yeah,
We're feeling
oh
like
yeah.
a couple guys start hitting buckets. Rose is hitting shots, and we're just like, okay, the juice is back. Spike is dancing. We're feeling good.
So, excuse me. So that's the next big thing I want to talk about. Julius Randle, for 6 quarters straight, Julius Randle was last year Julius Randle, and just even worse. I mean, he was
I
bad.
mean, I'd say worse because he didn't even score any points.
He was,
He had
I mean,
1 point.
atrocious. He was rebounding the ball pretty well. I could tell that he was frustrated. He was playing tough, and at least where he could, he was playing pretty good defense. But offensively, his shot, I was starting to think, is he injured? Is something like physically wrong with him? Because we have not seen Julius Randle play like this ever
And
since he's been
it's
a Knick.
interesting you say that because I was like, even watching in the press conferences, you're seeing him like sniffle and looking a little like, I'm like, he's
Yeah,
got allergies or something. There's a little hay
right.
fever. Weather's changing around here. Maybe we'll hopefully don't go down to Atlanta. That pollen is heavy down there, so
Yeah,
keep that mask on. You got to keep the
and
allergens out.
and I'll come back to the fact that Atlanta just could not get the job done and completely demoralize this Knicks team, because all of a sudden, a Julius Randle sighting in the second half, he starts to cook. Then you got Reggie starting to cook. And all of a sudden, you're watching the Knicks team that we've been watching all year. And I got to tell you, the Hawks, when Trey was sitting on the bench too early in that fourth quarter, I'm looking at the minutes. I mean, he still played 35 minutes, but he should have played over 40 minutes. I mean, you bring Trey back in, he was doing, and then they kind of got back into it as soon as they did. I just could not believe what the Hawks were letting their bench guys go, and the Knicks are just building that lead. So bad coaching on that side too, but
And
it's
that was
great
the
to
crazy
see.
thing in the first half too. When Trey was out, they actually kept that lead when he wasn't playing,
Yeah,
and then in the second half you start to realize like, wait a minute, how is he not back in this game yet? And the Nick bench started to really cook, and when you got I mean, it may come down to being called the Obi game on this one because yes, he gave us 8 points, but he gave
yeah,
us 8 points at the right times. And you could see the confidence growing in him.
yeah.
And I love the shot they showed of his mom just in tears when the Gardens trading Obi back there. Oh man, I got goosebumps. As we were doing it, like that dunk, we're falling all over each other, we're yelling and screaming in there. And oh man, just like that's the moment I think every player that plays for the Knicks wants that moment in the playoffs, Garden chanting your name.
Man. So
And
we'll come back to Randall, but Obi is one of the biggest stories here. This is the guy that we thought we drafted, the transformation that we saw him early in the season till now, looking like Amari Jr. out there, and then some. I mean, this is the benefit too of drafting a guy who is older, not an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. He is developed already as a player, and you're seeing his talents. Love him out there with Derrick Rose too. We saw that when Rose got to the team that he just plays better with him. Rose is always looking for him. The confidence oozing from Obi, and I think his play lifted up Randall as well, because Randall seeing this guy go out there playing with all this confidence, like Randall's got to be thinking, man, like I just got to get my head in the game like these young guys, picking them up. This team, I think it was when even when Alfred went down on the floor, he got knocked over early in the game, and the whole Knicks bench came over to pick him up. I mean, that's why we love this team. I mean, we would have loved to have seen them all sit there and just leave.
I mean, because that's what Alfred does. He's like, yeah. When everyone was yelling for Obi, Alfred's sitting in the back of the bench again. I didn't even see him most of the time. But let's not even dwell on that. We're not talking about this. Is about Obi being great.
So. It kind of sucks a little bit that Randall is, the face of this team right now, and him and Obi, it doesn't really make sense to play them together. Maybe against this Hawks team, if Capella's out there, you really can't run Randall at the 5. That's just too much, I think, of a mismatch for us. But I just want to see Obi out there every minute, because the energy he brings to this team, and he's playing so smart. He's playing so well, and what he's done for this team. And you could give Obi a lot of the credit for the Knicks coming back and winning last night. And I'm just,
I mean, he's not scared to put up the 3. He has the young legs. He's running and gunning all like back and forth on defense and offense.
Tell me about the Garden on that alley-oop. Like I'm watching videos back, and I get the goosebumps every time I watch it, man.
I didn't capture video because I kind of saw it coming, but I was like, no, let me just enjoy this here, because you saw him sprinting out, and everyone's
the hand raised and everything.
Everyone's pointing like, get him, and as soon as he threw that down, we all fell back on each other. Everyone's yelling and screaming, and just oh man, you can just feel that juice come out of there. I think I might have popped a vessel. Like I felt like I was gonna pop something, because we were all yelling and screaming so much at that moment. And it was between that and when I think near the end of the game, when Julius hit Taj for a dunk there, and everything just erupted, and you could feel like, okay, we got this, we got this. And that's where everyone was saying, having the crowd back at the Garden, that is the home court advantage. That is the advantage you have. And, that's where we're going to bring that energy down to Atlanta too. Like, it's not going to be a pro Hawks crowd down there. Like, everyone knows New Yorkers travel in herds, and Atlanta is a very New York heavy city. So we are going to be down there. We're going to be loud. Trey could get booed on his own home floor, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to deal with too. And I think it was just, going back to Obi, it was just, he has that youthful energy and exuberance that you need out there. And I think it gives Tibbs that little bit of space to give Julius more rest, because he's starting to trust Obi a little bit more. And when you have him out there with Rose or with Burks, guys that can facilitate and get him the ball, we're not even seeing the best of Obi right now, because we know he's got a whole lot more skills that can come into play, but he's doing what we need him to do in this series. And I wouldn't even be surprised if you want to go small, because they were playing small against them.
Yeah.
Put Julius at the 5, Obi at the 4, see what you can do for a couple of minutes here and there.
If the matchups work well against, as I said, I think when Capella's out there, it's really tough to do that. But I think when their bench guys are out there,
when Gallo is out there, they need to be going at him. That's what was frustrating, was they're starting so many plays so far out, and Julius is getting the ball. You can see their Hawks' defensive strategy is get the ball out of Julius's hands.
Yeah.
And don't let him get to his spots, because he's grabbing the ball near the 3-point line. Everyone's yelling like, why are you guys coming so far out to start it? Like, RJ gets the ball back, he pulls it all the way back out to half court, and then tries to go in again. It's like, attack the rim. And that's why I was a little surprised how much we outscored them in the paint, because that's what everyone was yelling, take it to the paint, attack them, because when Capella's not out there, they don't have anybody. It's
They don't
like
have, yeah.
in Rebound when they realize that Sledgehammer's soft. They're like, he's soft inside, take it in on him, and just go at them. So
Yeah.
apparently they did, but it didn't feel like it for long stretches that they weren't doing it. But that's like the play that's gotta happen, because without Capella, they really don't have anybody else to
So
protect the rim.
the other thing I wanted to bring up is Tibbs. Mr. Thibodeau. Um, I put a lot of blame on him last cast for the loss and just, the rotations and things like that. And I thought he definitely did a much better job this time, but there's still like some things where I just feel like Tibbs is always consistent in what he does. I mean, he made the switch of not playing Alfred in the second half, even though he did that last game. Like, I still don't think he needs to play Derrick Rose that many minutes. We're talking about Obi. Obi only played 12 minutes. I think Obi probably should still be playing a little bit more. I think he's earned it. So I'm not. The Knicks got the win and everything is great. I think I'm just always gonna disagree with Tibbs and his minute usage. I have all season, even though it's bit like, I mean, they're the 4th seed, right? We're watching playoff games, so like I can't hate on Tibbs, but his minutes usage, it's always been the knock on Tibbs. He just does things a certain way. But the one thing I want to praise Tibbs for is the Taj Gibson getting 30 minutes and being again another one of the reasons why I think the Knicks won last night. Taj Gibson was unbelievable. His plus minus was plus 23.
23, yeah.
I love using those stats only when it, helps my argument, but the energy that he brought and Taj Gibson is playing some of the best basketball I think he's probably ever played in his career.
He's the smart vet, like he knows how to play. We've been saying that all season. The guy just knows how to play basketball.
And I think part of it is from when he started his career till now, the NBA's changed so much in the role of the center position that his game, even being a little bit undersized, like, it's fine. What you need from centers now is not as much as it was in the past. This isn't the games played outside the arc for the most part. Games are spread out more. So Taj's hustle, running, boxing out, doing the fundamentals and those things right play really well for this team. And Nerlens, I think, is still a little hurt. He got a little foul trouble. Some fouls were a little questionable. Others were clearly fouls, even though he's complaining about everything. But man, I mean, all the talk going into the game was like, is Mitch Robinson going to play? Is he back? And
let's keep those rumors on the shelf.
Yeah, in this series specifically, I'm totally fine with Nerlens and Taj. If the Knicks can get out of this series, and if we do play the Sixers, I think if Mitch is healthy, it would be great to have just another body to honestly even use some fouls against Embiid, so we can rotate the guys through to just kind of like tire him out. But coming back to Tibbs, when we get to Atlanta, I don't think you can count on your bench being as productive. There's always a little bit of a drop off when you're away. When you're home, quickly those guys come out. I mean, quickly didn't have a great game, but you always get that energy boost off the bench. Those guys on the road, I think you always need a little bit more from your starters. So I'm hoping that Randall and Reggie, they're picking it up in the second half, that they're going to come out firing. Because their numbers really, the starting lineup, still not great. You were talking about Rose before. He's really been the guy. But
that's the adjustment that Tibbs made was, coming into the second half, he was just like, the starters aren't giving us what we need, and their energy's low. And he like he said, we needed a jolt, and Derrick Rose is that jolt, and Taj Gibson is that jolt. And when you have Alfred and Nerlens out there, you're essentially playing 5-on-3. So you just, and that's what makes it everything harder for Julius and for RJ to get going and Reggie to get going, because they can load up on all those guys. So you bring it, and to your point again with the minutes, everyone wants to talk about the minutes on Rose, and there's like, you played, 39 minutes, you're averaging like 20, 28 during the regular season. You're like, he's good, Knock on
Great.
wood, he's fine. He's taking care. There's a funny video of
I
I think it was Trey was at the free throw line and Derrick Rose is back there doing like yoga
I saw
moves
that.
in the
Yeah, yeah.
background. And I was just like, yeah, please take care of himself.
He's
You know,
into it,
he's
man. He's taking care of his body. Whatever you got to do.
watching him do that on the sidelines
So
is just funny, but I love
yeah.
it.
So I mean, with all this, I mean, I just want to kind of get right into it. Like, there was a big turning point in the second half yet last night. We said a number of times already. Do you think the Knicks have turned a corner? I think it's clear that momentum has swung a little bit to the Knicks' favor. That's how the game ended. But now we go to Atlanta. Knicks go to Atlanta on Friday night. It's only, and that's the thing, this ain't a Saturday game. This is a Friday game. So they're traveling. I don't know if they left last night or if they're leaving today. I would think they probably just hopped on a plane last night, right?
Yeah, they got come in, go to get some chicken and waffles when they're down
Yeah.
there. Settle in.
So I think you made a really good point, though. We lived in Atlanta. Atlanta is not a basketball town. I don't care how you put it. It's not. Atlanta, they care about their college teams in Atlanta more than anything.
College, they like the Braves, they like the
Braves,
Falcons.
and even then, some Falcons fans here and there. What was that? The name of that place we always used to go to? Taco Mac, right?
Taco Mac. Oh yeah, the Mac.
That was the spot. But Atlanta, a great town. We're big fans of the city, but there's gonna be a lot of Knicks fans in Atlanta. Like,
people talk about Florida as the place where all of the older New Yorkers go down there.
Yeah.
The younger New Yorkers go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that's where all the transplant stars. Like they're sitting in Midtown ready to go.
What percentage of Knicks fans do you think? I mean, I think it could be as high as like, I mean, call me crazy. 50-50.
I was going to say it could be 50-50.
It could. It's going to be crazy.
Like, you're talking about people already there, but then also the people coming from New York going down there.
Nobody cares about basketball in Atlanta. Like, I'm hoping that there's one big fan. He's probably trying to buy up all the tickets for Atlanta fans because he knows that all these New Yorkers are showing up. Because, like,
did I tell you I'm going to be down there? I'm going. Game 4.
You are?
Me and Tony are going. Yeah, we got tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So you get tickets?
Yeah. So I'm traveling tomorrow. I'm getting on a plane, going down there.
Tickets. Can I ask? Do you mind sharing how? I'm curious what they're going for.
Well, we have really good seats, so we decided to splurge. I will say I paid more than I did at MSG. MSG was surprisingly cheap. It was $150 at MSG. So
What do you like the 300s for great seats or more? We're going more. Okay,
we're 5 rows behind the Knicks bench.
Wow.
So we went for it. So
you'll be sitting right next to Alfred.
Pretty much. He's probably going to be sitting right in front of me. But I told Tony, like, we will be able to hear Tibbs barking from where we are. So
that's great.
We're going to be down there. Everybody, like, I've already seen on Knicks Twitter, a lot of people are going to be going down to that game. Spike's probably already there.
Yeah.
Stephen A's yelling about going down there. Like, it's the whole, like, everyone, you heard him on TNT. They're like, it's a big New York contingent down there. So
yeah, it reminds me of like going to like Yankee Met games or something where like the back and forth of the fans yelling at each other like at the game, and the fans, like, you don't know, like, so when the Knicks are on defense, you're gonna get defense, but then Atlanta, they're pumping the noise of just it's gonna be, and I think that's the point. It's not gonna be a complete home game necessarily.
Exactly. That's what
for Atlanta. And that's annoying, man. That's gonna, Trey talking that smack about wait till we get to the A, like, yo,
like, no, we're gonna be there. That's these are gonna be in the stands. So, like, we're there, we're here. So
back to the original question: Do you think this series has shifted into the Knicks' favor? And what do you see happening in Atlanta with the Knicks?
I hope so. There's still a lot that wasn't working, but you saw in that second half, they started to play much better defense. The offense starts clicking. And we said this after game 1, like Julius and Reggie hit just a couple more shots and we win that game. Yep. Game 2, they come back and they hit those shots. So I think now maybe going down to Atlanta, maybe now it's RJ's time to really start getting buckets because he didn't play a lot of the fourth quarter. He had a lot of minutes and Tibbs was just riding the momentum of the game and he's known to do that. We saw stretches of that in the regular season where RJ wasn't
Yeah,
playing down the stretch, but you have Rose and you have Burks playing well. You got let him go, and once Reggie starts hitting those
yeah.
shots, you got to let him play, and I'm not mad at that. So
I,
maybe it's coming into. I want to say if we get Game 3, I think. I mean, I'm not going to make any
yeah,
predictions. I don't like making predictions, but if we can get Game 3, I think that's going to make a
yeah,
huge. It's going to cause a huge swing.
yeah. I said it before. I think Atlanta was exposed because the fact that they came out of this trip and it's 1-1 and the Knicks played about as bad of basketball as you can play in game one and they only won by 2. And then for a whole half, the Knicks played about as bad as you can play and the Knicks ended up winning by 9 just because Randall played okay in the second half. That's not good. The Knicks are a much better team than what they've played the last 2 games. And the Hawks, I mean, Trey put up good numbers. Bogdanovich kind of put up good numbers. He started bricking threes in the second half. Like, I don't, maybe the Hawks are just kind of good on paper. And I always talk the difference between regular season teams and playoff teams where like maybe the Hawks are not that good. And the Knicks always, even with these games, like the Knicks, their defense like keeps them in it. Like we've always talked about the Knicks this year of like they're kind of always in every game. The Knicks, not too many like blowout losses and even bad losses. The only loss that I saw as bad, even the whole regular season, like really just bad, was like that Minnesota game that we came in thinking that we could win. Like there weren't too many. Like we've been Knicks fans for a long time, and we've seen some bad. I mean, we've been at the Garden on MLK Day watching the Knicks lose by 50, and like those days seem kind of over for this team, where they're just like they'll grind, man. We have enough.
It's never
We have
over.
enough guys that we can call up that. And now Obi's just like the latest player who like he could come in and give us a spark. Quickly can give us a spark. Rose, Burks, like there's just so many guys you don't, and those are all bench guys. Those aren't even
Big
starting.
15, Big 15. That's what we are.
Yeah. Knox. I mean, he's just itching to come out there. Frank, they're still waiting in the wings. If their numbers called, they're ready to play.
They're ready to go.
Their spirits are up on the sideline. No one's pouting. So
maybe someone else.
Before we close it out, I gotta ask the big question because this is really what it comes down to. I'm with you. I'm not gonna make any predictions because the Knicks Randall could come out awful again, and this whole thing could go 7. I always thought the Knicks would win this series. Yeah, I'm a Knicks fan. I think they're the better team. But is Elfrid Payton going to start again? That to me, that's the biggest question. That the answer should be no. He should not because Rose should start. Elfrid should be out of the rotation. That gives you more freedom to bring in quickly Burks, and even Frank could get some minutes at times. Elfrid out of the rotation would make this team better, and it's so freaking obvious.
It's obvious to everybody. And I
can't see a scenario where starting Rose ruins the way things go for the rest of the game. Like the Knicks are constantly playing from behind, and like you said, it's like 5-on-3 out there. It's just horrible to watch. And like, why come back from behind when you could either be up maybe or like I don't know. It just
you could be winning a game. What's the downside? So I think,
or is this just going to be the? I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say I think Elfrid's going to start. I think Elfrid's going to start again, and I think he'll probably be really bad for 5 to 7 minutes, and then he'll get taken out, and then we won't see him again.
I mean, I hope he's not. I posted a tweet before the game yesterday of that clip from Remember the Titans when it's just like put Benny in, he's better. And
yeah. I love that.
It's just like go do it, Elfrid. Go do it. It's just give up your spot for the good of the team.
Yeah.
And Petey. Why did I say? What did I say? Betty.
Yeah,
I'm
you
thinking
said
of
Betty.
Sandlot.
I
No,
was, gonna, I was
Petey.
just
Put
gonna,
Petey
yeah,
in.
I was just gonna let you go
got
with
it. I
it.
got it. But I think he probably is, and my hope though is we all hope he won't. And I think the fact that Tibbs went to that change in the second half could be telling that maybe he switches it up because I think you realize now you don't have to play like Derek the entire game because you can bring in Burks to
And,
offset him a little bit,
right,
and you just give him a little breather, give him
you
5-7 minutes by himself.
it's ridiculous that he played 39 minutes and he wasn't even starting. So that means he's almost like playing like
He's
39 minutes
playing with the
straight.
starters anyway, so it's like
Um,
just put
it's
him in.
and Rose is playing unbelievable. There's nothing, and this isn't like some young guy like that has never been a starter before in the league, and him being a sixth man is so important. Like we said, the Big 15, man. Honestly, the Knicks we got to change it to the Big 14 because this guy Alfred. And I like to keep it positive. I don't like to trash any players, but like he looks just disinterested and he's not in it, and the other players on the court have their head down because they're so fed up with Alfred also. It just seems
And you know
nobody
they're
Tibbs
never
is
going
the
to say
only
anything
guy
bad
in
about
this
him,
guy's
but
corner.
he's the you got to wonder what he's got on Tibbs. Like, does he have nudes or something? I don't know,
Oh, wow.
but
All right.
it's bizarre. But hopefully, and when you're on the road, maybe you have a little bit more flexibility to just like try some stuff. You know, like the
Yeah,
series is tied now. Just start Rose, and we called this out last episode and earlier on when Alfred was injured and Rose was starting those games, the offense just looked so much better and they're
so
not
much
playing
better.
from behind. It's like just don't put yourself in a hole, you know, like you don't have to play catch up. And
Yeah,
that's always Clyde's thing. It's like stop playing catch up because you just expend so much more energy to get back into the game when you can just play ahead. And
yeah.
you know, it's just everyone's
Seems
feeling
so
better. So
well.
we'll see. We'll
We'll
see.
find out Friday. If I had to put money on it, I would assume that Alfred will be starting. What are you gonna do? You
We'll
know,
know by 6 o'clock on Friday, and we'll see.
yeah. But hey, series is tied up 1-1. Knicks have the momentum. You're going to game 4.
Pumped.
Let's keep this. Let's just keep it going, man. I just want as much Knicks basketball as possible. This has been episode 55, recapping game 2 of the New York Knicks coming off the fresh win 101-92. You can follow us on Twitter at Let's Talk Knicks or on Instagram at Let's_Talk_Knicks. We will talk to you next time.